Hey everyone, welcome to episode 14 of Open Books with Alana and Erin, two female leaders modernizing the accounting space.
Hey.
Awesome. It's a nice sunny day today.
It is
We
beautiful.
love it. Sun in Montana. We're enjoying it while we get it.
Yes. Thank goodness.
Yes. Cool. Today, our episode is going to be an interesting one, I feel like, because we're going to touch on a subject that I feel like many leaders probably feel, and it's there for many of them, but maybe just don't want to talk about it. It's maybe not something that's commonly discussed, and that's the feeling of maybe some jealousy with your team members, or that feeling of the FOMO, feeling left out. When you're in leadership, you have to say no so you can say yes to your leadership duties.
Yes.
And so that does create some feelings of, like I said, the FOMO, or seeing the jealousy of what your team members get to do. So we're going to talk through, how do you cheer on your team members when you are feeling that type of way, right? So to start off, Erin, how do you even recognize when you have those feelings of jealousy or feelings of FOMO?
It's not hard to recognize. For me, it stems from a lot of self-doubt.
Okay.
So I know when I'm starting to doubt myself, I'm usually going to be also feeling a little bit of envy or jealousy. I know now that I've, worked in a career for 20 plus years. At my age, I feel like I know what my triggers are, what's going to set those off. A lot of my envy, because jealousy is such a negative word, a lot of my envy is actually age related.
Oh, interesting.
I see people doing things at a younger age than I was when I was given the similar opportunity. And I think I wish I had done something differently with my schooling, or I'd, decided what I really wanted to do earlier in my career, and where would I be if I had that opportunity earlier. And it's like my experience is what brought me to where I am. And so I logically know that's not how life works.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop those feelings of what could have been, I guess. The grass is always greener on the other side. My life went in one trajectory. If I had done what this person did, there's no guarantee that it would end up at that same spot.
Right.
But that's where a lot of those feelings for me come from. Okay. So I recognize, I'm self-aware enough to know that age stuff is my trigger.
Yeah.
And I think just having that self-awareness to be I'm feeling these feelings. It's okay. Let's work through them.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is recognizing what your initial triggers are from the very beginning.
Yep.
How about you?
Yeah, I would second that in recognizing what your initial triggers are. I find that I experience FOMO way more than the jealousy. And that's because the technical work is what led me to have such a passion for advisory. And it led me into wanting to have leadership specifically in the advisory and public accounting space. It's what fills my cup when I'm having a rough day. I just want to crank out some client work because I'm I can at least win at that, And so when I see other people working on some really cool projects, I'm like, can I just see what you're working on? What's that? I just can't help myself.
Let me just get my fingers in there real quick.
What is that on your screen there? And so I think just knowing that that's who I am, and I just can't help but ask about client projects. When I hear about them, I have to be very careful of not getting in too deep and not getting too involved in them.
Yeah.
Because that sets everyone up for disaster, right? So I just have to have boundaries and just know that I will quickly get too deep into wanting to hear more, and then quickly, oh, listen, I'm involved in the project and I shouldn't be.
Yeah. So it's very, I have a lot of those feelings too, not necessarily about client work.
Okay.
Because that's not where a lot of my passion is.
Okay.
When it comes to technology
Oh, sure.
and implementing technology, I'm like, I should not be spending 3 hours helping with this. There's much better use of my time, but that feeling of FOMO is like, I want to know.
Yes.
So definitely can relate a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I do love client work, but the tech is, my parents were both tech people. So
Yes.
tech and any kind of thing that's going to make like policy procedure stuff. Like, I want to dive right in and build out all these policies.
Oh,
and luckily, that's part of my job.
See? So it works out.
But there are times where I'm like, Sarah, just let me in.
I know. Yes. You have to be really careful about that.
Yeah, it's rough. Definitely that FOMO.
Yes.
It's such a killer. And I know everyone feels it about different things as well.
Yep.
I can definitely see it in my team too. When they see a coworker that has a really cool client relationship or they're bringing on a new client that they're really interested in, it can definitely kind of build up a little bit of envy or FOMO within the team.
How do you help your team work through that when you see that?
It's hard. Most of the time, like, we'll acknowledge that yes, this is a very cool client. Like, hey, maybe they're in a place where we can visit for our next retreat, so we can actually go visit them all as a team, so we all can experience that, which has worked. We did that with our very first retreat. We went to some of our like really cool clients. And so everyone, not just the person who does the work, got to experience that.
Oh, cool.
With being fully remote, it makes that difficult.
Yep.
But I think having the conversation with the person who's feeling that envy of what is actually causing this envy. Is it just the fact that they're getting something new and you're kind of tired of what you're doing, you just want some change? Or is there something about that client that really resonates with you? Is it, we have a team member who really works well with breweries and distilleries. And so I think when she sees things coming in that aren't necessarily going to her, but have a brewery or distillery like bent to it, it's kind of like, well, why am I not getting that?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you don't have capacity.
Yeah.
But I think drilling down to what is actually causing that envy. Is it a lack of change, or do you feel like you're not growing or progressing technically? And helping them see what's actually driving that envy is helpful, and it helps them build some of that self-awareness. When do you see it in your team, and how do you address that?
Yeah, I mean, you see it, I think, when new engagements come in, because there's a lot of excitement around the new engagement. I think, too, because you share success stories, around the firm, to build excitement, especially, with multiple locations. Like, you want to get that excitement across the firm. And so that naturally, just brings attention to it. So I think first, with my team, it's just acknowledging that that's a natural reaction. It's okay. It's human. You don't have to, it's not wrong. We just want to acknowledge it. But I think also walking through how that opportunity came to be is also a good exercise. So is this opportunity, did it come up because we identified a need with a client? Cool, let's do that with another client, right? Is there something we can do with your current book, right? So learning from that, I think, is a good way to kind of change the mindset, and kind of like change the view of like maybe that jealousy or the missing out feeling, to more learn from it and try to do the same thing with their engagements. But I think so much of it is just acknowledging like, hey, it's normal. I've felt it before. I know where you're coming from, and like, let's learn from it and, try to find an opportunity for you and, find space for that for you as well.
That acknowledging that it is a feeling that we all feel. And that kind of goes into like what I've learned from my team
Okay.
is that it's important for us to share that
Yep.
we feel those things. We have those feelings as leaders.
Yep.
It happens. And that's okay. It's human. We're all human.
Yes.
We're all going to have feelings that we know are quote unquote bad.
Yeah.
But we can turn those into really great conversations and use those as a jumping point off for a growth opportunity.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. What I've learned from my team in that respect is that thinking about how somebody else has that opportunity, it can actually be like a motivating factor if it's a mindset switch to like, that's where I want to be. Like
Yeah.
for a team member to look up to that. And that's been really incredible to observe is like team members looking up to that opportunity that somebody else has and like wanting to be there one day. And just to see that evolution and that growth cycle of like, oh, that was them 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's really incredible to see, like I said, that growth and just how those opportunities do become that motivation. Yeah, that mindset I think is just everything. So if you can help your team change that from more of like envy, almost like competition, it can kind of become, to instead just motivation for where they want their career to be in a couple years.
Yeah.
I think helping them make that switch is a really powerful mindset shift for them.
Kind of tied into that with that giving them kind of a goal of where they want to be. When that happens and you have that example of the client engagement that they really they would really like to have. I think at that point, it's also easier to set defined goals or defined steps to get to that point because you've got the example right there.
Yes.
And you can kind of compare what they're doing now to what they would need to get to be able to either manage a more complex engagement or is it because they're still doing a lot of, data entry work and they need to move up so they can make capacity. But it really gives you the opportunity to have those definable steps, which I think is really hard as leaders. We can say, yeah, we want to help get you to the next step. But when it comes to actually making it actionable, that's a little harder. So it's great to use those feelings of envy or jealousy or FOMO to build out all right, that's where you want to be. That's what you're saying you want to do. Let's get to it.
Let's get you there with these steps. So when you, we talked earlier about how when you know that you're in those feelings, how do you course correct or pull yourself out of that in the moment?
So this is something I have discussed with my therapist.
I love that.
Because it's a feeling that I get a lot. Like I said, I recognize some of my stuff is age related.
Sure.
I think for me, it's knowing ahead of time that self-awareness of this is a trigger of mine.
Okay.
I know I'm going to not respond well. Change that mindset. Like that reminder to myself that the grass always looks greener on the other side. I know what is going to set off those feelings and then acknowledging them and saying like, hey, I recognize this. It's okay. Also with my therapist, we worked on kind of coming up with words of affirmation of it's okay to feel this. These are the things you have done because so much of it stems from self-doubt of I'm not good enough. That's why I'm feeling these envious feelings. I should be better than this, that kind of stuff. And having those words of affirmation of like what I've done to get to where I am. My path is different than what I may see someone else doing, and that's okay. Those kind of pull me out, and like I have those written up. I actually have like 20 different things that I have pasted on my mirror in my bathroom that are things that make me feel good, and the
Yeah.
words of affirmation are included in there, just to kind of pull me out of that
Yep.
that mindset and that headspace and kind of reset.
Yep.
When you're feeling that FOMO,
Yeah.
what do you do?
So what I do first is I take check, I guess, of like what my thoughts are as well, because I know that if I am so focused on what somebody else has going on, that's one indicator that I need to course correct. And so it's just those continuous thoughts of like, if I'm not focusing on what I have, then that's a really good indicator that like I need to pull back and readjust what I'm doing. So that kind of leads me into the course correction, I would say. We also, in a couple episodes ago, talked about how I do 2 brain dumps per week. I likely, theoretically, do more, but like 2 structured ones at the
Right.
beginning and 1 at the end. And my one at the end of the week, I also am looking at, did I get done all my intentional things that I needed to get done? Because, like I said, my issue is FOMO, and I can push myself into something I shouldn't be involved in, right? And so in my brain dump on Friday, if I'm not getting the things done that I should have gotten done, why? Is it because I occupied myself with things that weren't what I needed to occupy myself with? Cool. Then that's my fault. I have nobody else to blame but me, right? As I'm here on Saturday.
Exactly.
Right? So that's a time for me to course correct
Yeah.
and readjust my priorities and, yell at myself and, but readjust like the priorities and everything. One thing that I also recently learned that has been a really great mind shift for me, and I'll talk more about it in our next episode as
Ooh.
well. But I have really thought about my why for going into leadership. And that has been really powerful for me. And it, like I said, something very recent I've done. And I encourage all leaders to do this because, like I said, I can get pulled into the technical work very fast, especially I still have a little bit of a technical load as well. But I have to hold true to why I'm doing the other leadership roles and lean on that so that I know, okay, I can let the other technical stuff go to my team who is fantastic. And they are more than capable, more capable than me, more efficient than me. Like they've got it and I know they do. And so let them do that and like remember why I'm in leadership and let the technical stuff go. And that has been really powerful for me
I bet.
since I've done that.
I think that is something great for new leaders.
Yeah.
Because you are having to learn to let go of the technical.
Yep.
And that's really hard, I think, in accounting specifically, because so much of our technical knowledge is how we value ourselves.
Oh, totally.
And being okay
Yep.
with letting that go.
Yep.
And the team needs to do this because you need to focus on leading your team.
Yeah.
Can be so hard, especially when you're starting out and you may still have some technical requirements.
Yep.
And you have to kind of balance that. It's so easy to be like, I'm going to put off this leadership stuff because I know how to do the technical.
Yes.
So I love that you brought up that why.
Yep.
Because it really recenters us and reshapes that mindset back to like, this is what I need to focus on now.
Yep.
It's not the technical stuff, even though that may be how I valued myself when I first entered my career.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, it really, it, like you said, it reminds yourself of like, let it go.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of balances. I look at it as like balancing back out that teeter totter of like, okay, this is my role now.
Yeah.
You know, and I gotta let it go. That's my own problem.
Yes.
It is.
As we've been sitting here talking, I've been thinking of other scenarios or other things that I've been feeling envious or FOMO from. And when you like promote the person underneath you to start so we just had a promotion not that long ago, and thinking of the FOMO I feel from her managing her team. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just need to step back.
I know.
I just need to let her do it. She's
Yep.
got this. She's amazing, fully capable. And I know
Yeah.
she'll come to me if she has any questions.
Yep.
But oh my gosh, that's hard. And there have
Yeah.
been several times where I'll start like slacking one of the team members. I'm like, wait,
Delete it.
back. I need to send this off to Kristen first. 'Cause
Right.
she's got it.
Yep.
Amazing. But
Yep.
another, it's so hard to let go.
It is. Yeah.
But the team is capable.
Yep.
I have full confidence. It's not a lack of confidence.
Totally.
And it can come across that way so easily.
It can. And as leaders, I think you have to be very cognizant of that, of how it's coming across then to your team member who's trying to lead their team.
Yeah.
Like that's a very delicate balance you have to maintain. But then also what I was just thinking about is I think, especially in public accounting, but other industries for sure, is just even the FOMO or jealousy between firms as well. You know, we are very different firms, right? I would say no firm is the same, truly, now in
Agreed.
accounting.
Yeah.
And so it can even be easy. You know, you guys are a fast, nimble firm, right? And so sometimes when you bring up initiatives, you know, even getting to go to your full team, getting to go to one client, your entire firm, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
We could never get our whole firm in a restaurant, like sitting at a booth together.
150
There's
people.
no way we could get there, right?
Yep.
So there's just, I mean, yeah, you can find it anywhere you look.
Definitely.
And so again, I think it's just a reminder of like focusing on what's on your plate, understanding all the elements that are around it and the journey that brought you to where you're at.
Yes.
That is so important to there's so many elements at play and just reminding our team of that it's not just so cut and dry, black and white every
Right.
single time.
It's when you talk about kind of the comparison of firms
Yep.
or the jealousy between firms isn't quite the right. But anyway,
Right. Yep.
after going to like QuickBooks Connect or another
God,
industry
yeah.
conference,
Yes.
it's really easy to come away from that
Yes.
with a feeling of, oh my gosh, we're
Yes.
doing everything wrong.
Yep.
Your team members who attend may
Yes.
also be feeling that way.
Yep.
So it's, I think, important to reiterate to them, like,
Yeah.
we are different.
Yep.
We are not going to function the same way. There
Yeah.
are reasons that they do the things that they do, and there are reasons why we do the things that we do.
Yep.
And we do them because we work in a specific niche, or we prefer to advise a specific way, or,
Yep.
you know, it's okay to have those differences, and one isn't necessarily better than the
Yep.
other. But definitely notice that after some
Yep.
of the larger conferences over the years, is you come away feeling super excited about the industry. But I remember when we were first, well, I don't know if you were in the CAS department at that point. It was the very first time I went to QuickBooks Connect.
Yeah.
And we were still very traditional
Yeah.
firm. And it was our first kind of foray into being tech forward. I remember going and just being
Yep.
mind blasted
Yeah.
by everything.
Yep.
And like, we are like
Yep.
the lowest of the low. How we
know.
aren't ready for any of this.
Yep.
And it was so easy to come away from that feeling not so great.
Yep.
But luckily, I'm pretty, optimistic person. I'm like,
Yeah.
we can get there at some point.
Yeah.
But definitely something to talk to your team about, because that can really be detrimental if they don't think that you can be at the top tier, even though that may not be the goal.
Yeah. I think just setting those expectations,
Mm-hmm.
helping your team see in those moments, they're not seeing the whole picture of the other
Right.
firms either. You know, they
Right.
are only seeing the really great sides of those
Yeah.
other firms because we're only talking about the best things of our firms when we're
The
there.
grass is greener.
Exactly. Yeah. Obviously, like we're having really constructive conversations too, but
Right.
like, you know, we're only seeing, 30% of the story when
Yeah.
we're at those conferences. So, yeah, to your point, so important just to, set expectations
Yeah.
and Yeah. Also, when they come back, we can't change the entire firm after one conference.
Right.
Right. There's
As much as we might like to.
Yes. Right.
It's probably good that we can't.
Totally. Thank God for checks and balances.
Yeah, no
truly.
kidding.
Because we would change it every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
Oh, the staff would be so unhappy.
See, exactly. It would actually backfire.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think just keeping that in mind of, just that cycle.
Yeah.
Right. And all those feelings is really important.
Similar, it's very easy to compare it to
Yes.
like the Facebook and Instagram stuff. Like someone puts their typically like highlights
Yes.
on Instagram,
Yep.
Facebook, social media. You may look at that and see only their highlights.
Yep.
That's not real life. So it's easy to compare it. And then
Yep.
I find usually that's like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Conferences are the high points.
Yes.
Or even seeing a firm's social media.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
you see that and be like, wow, why aren't we doing something like that? It's
Yeah.
like, remember,
Yes.
this is their high point.
Exactly.
Which is great for them,
Yeah.
but they, I'm sure, have some difficulties behind the scenes,
yeah.
just like any firm.
Yeah. And no business can post like A to Z on, like you can't put everything that a business has on social media, you're never going to get the full scope of it. So
Definitely.
it's just keeping all of that in mind is important to remind
Yeah.
team members as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What would you tell yourself
Yeah.
3 months ago, 6 months ago, years ago about that, the feelings of competition or FOMO or jealousy? What would you tell yourself back then?
Yeah, mine lends itself more to like the competition feel in the very beginning of my career. Just in the sense of telling myself that there is plenty of room in case nobody has seen many of the headlines out there, even way back when I started my career. There is such a need for accountants. We will continue with that, I'm sure, for many years to come. So to say there's plenty of room for so many accountants to win, and putting those passionate feelings instead of against other team members or, other people in the firm, using it instead as a team to further ourselves as a firm together is so much more powerful. And I think that's just the message that I would tell myself is just uniting as a firm is more powerful than seeing what somebody else has, and not being able to see the full picture.
Right.
But seeing that as envy or that fear of missing out, or more so, I think the fear of feeling like you're getting left behind more than anything, right? Like they're advancing and, am I not type of thing? Because it's easy to feel like you're standing still and somebody else is moving.
Definitely.
Even if that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel like that is.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. What about you?
That the jealousy, envy, FOMO feelings are not inherently bad.
Sure.
They're stemming from something.
Yeah.
For me, self-doubt or other issues that I have. But that it's not bad and we can use them to motivate. Yes. Like, okay, you're seeing this. It's something that you want to do in the future. How do you get there? Yep. Let's work on it and move forward. Kind of like that competition of like, well, this person gets to do this and I don't. Yeah. Well, then let's get to the point where you can do it. So I always felt very, very guilty for feeling envy or jealousy because you're brought up that jealousy is a sin.
Right.
Envy is a sin, 7 deadly sins. So I always had a huge amount of guilt around it. It was always very defeating, very like, I know I shouldn't be feeling this. This makes me a bad person. Yeah. And it's that, no, it's not a great feeling to have. Yep. But we can turn it into something good.
Totally.
Wish I knew that a little bit earlier.
Yep.
As opposed to now where I'm feeling fairly confident and kind of subverting those feelings.
I love that. Taking that feeling and make it motivating instead, helping our team
Yep.
with that motivation as well.
Exactly.
Love that. I think that's a good place to end. Love
Great.
it. Cool. Thanks everyone for listening to Open Books. We hope by bringing forward the lessons that we've learned along the way during our time in the accounting industry, we hope that others can learn from us and share in our journey as we evolve to be leaders in the accounting industry. Thanks,
Great.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.